Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 449. I had the white pieces and decided to kick off with c4, playing the English opening, which I hadn't played for a while. And my opponent goes for one of the main moves, e5, trying to get a reverse Sicilian setup, which we get. It's an interesting kind of... he's playing typical kind of moves that white plays in a Sicilian, and I'm going with something like an accelerated dragon, I guess. What's interesting is that my opponent immediately plays d5, which I wasn't expecting. But it is one of the top choices in the opening book. I guess mostly I've seen bishop b4. Often when black plays a reverse Sicilian against white, he plays one of the closed lines, which bishop b4 leads to kind of a closed Sicilian typically. The idea being that the open Sicilian would favor the player that has the extra move, in this case white, being a little more tactical. But it looks like d5 is quite a good move, so can't rely on those sort of general observations. This appears to be... Oh, cancel that. I guess I didn't play right away. Yeah, I take the pawn immediately and then develop the bishop. So it looks like we followed normal opening lines up to this point. And then typically now this knight is under fire. I've developed my pieces, so I've got this kind of light squared strategy. I'm trying to control this diagonal, and maybe I'll follow up with d3. And develop my pieces normally, but black immediately has to do something about this knight. And it is possible to take on c3. That's an option. The engine and the opening book are favoring moving the knight away. The most common move in the opening book is knight to b6. So just take a look at how this might go in the main line. I would continue developing with knight f3, hitting this pawn. Notice the pawn can't come forward because the knight's controlling the e4 square. So black would develop a knight c6, and I would castle. And then bishop e7, so black can castle. And then I could continue with a3, controlling the b4 square and stopping any pins on this knight, or knight hopping in here, or with d3, which is often the way I play. Okay, let's go back to the game. Just a little bit of how it might have been played. So after I played bishop g2, he went with c6, a very rare move. And then we're pretty much out of the opening book. Knight f3. Yeah, just continuing developing is probably the most logical way to play this. But I played d3, which is also a developing move because it opens up this diagonal for the bishop. So we are in a reasonable position with chances for both sides. Nobody's done anything horribly wrong here. And we continue in a position that's about even for quite a while. Let's see. He plays knight takes. At some point, I guess he wants to resolve the situation with this knight. He could also consider bishop to e6 here, just defending the knight. And then develop his other knight behind the bishop. There's a lot of different plans here, but taking is not necessarily a bad move. It does bring a pawn forward, but it gets rid of one of my pieces, and he's got open lines for his bishop, so it looks like black is pretty comfortable here. So I play queen c7. Oh, he played queen c7. I castle. He castles. And right here, I start going astray. So I guess I could have some advantage here if I were to play the move d4, get some slight opening edge. It's a pretty logical move, although I wasn't thinking of it. I was thinking of my light squared strategy with the bishop. But for the moment, that's kind of shut down with this pawn, this pawn formation with the pawns on b7 and c6. And looking at what happens later in the game, my opponent actually manages to establish a pawn on c5 and set up this kind of Maroczy bind clamp on the center. He gets quite a lot of center influence. So this is a way to counteract that immediately, get a pawn to d4 right away, and ask him what he wants to do. So this might continue. He probably doesn't want to take and give me two pawns in the center that are unopposed. So he could play a move like knight to d7, just defending. And I don't want to take because that would give me an isolated c-pawn. So it looks like the tension would just stay here for a while. Maybe a move like queen to c2, keeping an eye on this e5 square, keeping the pawn from coming forward. And we just play from this position. But I have just a slightly better setup than I did in the game, a little more center influence. So something to keep in mind. My plan that I came up with here was to play a4 and bishop a3 and trade off the dark squared bishop. But really, let's erase a couple of these lines. This dark squared bishop here is not doing a whole lot, and it takes me 2 moves to get that set up. So I should probably play something else. So d4 is the way to go. Anyway, I went with a4, and he develops the knight a6, the other way to develop the knight. Now I go bishop a3, and now he could just trade off this bishop and be fine, it looks like. Instead he goes for c5, which is an interesting plan. I guess I have ways to counteract it, but already he's starting to set up this uncomfortable bind here. Rook c1 is the recommended move, or d4 still. Interesting. So I played queen c2. He goes bishop e6, just logically centralizing his pieces. I go knight d2, opening up this diagonal for the bishop. I'm still thinking about this light squared strategy, putting a rook here, maybe ganging up on the b7 pawn. And this knight sometimes is usefully deployed on c4, although at the moment it could get traded off, so maybe it's not going there. It could also go to e4. Anyway, he plays f5, and that prevents the knight from going to e4, so shuts down that plan. I go with rook to b1. He defends. And here I go f4. So I was getting concerned. Like I said, he's building up all this central influence, and I wanted to kind of mess it up. And it looks like d4 is no longer a playable move. He always has this pin on the c file against my unprotected queen here. Here, I've been trying to erase these arrows here. Okay. Yeah, my queen is undefended on c2, so there's this pin along the c file, so it makes it difficult for me to play d4. So I played f4, trying to bust up this pawn formation. We get this exchange. Right here, I think it's a little better to take back with the pawn. Both moves are okay. It's the next move is my first really big blunder. There were little mistakes here and there, things that could be improved, but right here is a big blunder. I played the move knight f3, and of course this is a move, you should do a blunder check on every move, but this is one that really cries out for a blunder check because I blocked the retreat square of my rook. The rook has nowhere to go, so whenever you have an exposed piece, especially a clumsy piece like a rook that only moves in straight lines, doesn't even move on the diagonal, it's easy for it to get trapped, so you always have to be watching whenever you block the retreating moves. So anyway, I played knight f6, and my opponent spotted my mistake right away and played g5. And now it should be game over, really. I should lose this. He can just win the exchange for no compensation. I decided it'd be better to give up the rook over here, force him to give up a bishop. If I leave it here, he can just take with a pawn. I lose a whole piece. Here he can win the exchange, and he could just take right away. He throws in the move f4, and that gives me the chance to try and lose the rook under better circumstances. I go to this square, and so now there's still no escape for the rook. He goes bishop d5, and I still have no good moves. So I go ahead and take the bishop here. It's interesting, the chess engine is preferring g takes f4 and letting him take with the bishop. Anyway, I just wanted to point out the reason this is better is that if I just leave my rook here and let him take with his bishop, it's going to double my c-pawn. So we'll be up the exchange, and he will have messed up my pawn structure. Because the way he played it with this move f4, I get my rook here, and then I can trade my rook for his bishop this way. So I still lose the exchange, but my pawns are a little more together. So I have to play carefully here, though. He's got this big threat of taking and invading with the queen and the rook. c4, trying to kick the bishop, and then bishop takes b4. And c4, let's see, let's take a look at this idea. I thought he would have to retreat the bishop there, but he plays knight b4. Okay, attacking my queen, that's the idea. So I trade this off. And then instead of taking back, he plays bishop takes f3. Hey, computer has a funny way of doing this. I would take back, and then he would take back. And where do we stand? He's still got this check with the queen coming in, but I've eliminated a lot of pieces. Bishop d5 check. I have a check that I can throw in too. So that's best play for me. Okay, so that we were at this position where I took the rook, he took back, and here I didn't play c4. Instead, I played the move d4. I was trying to go after this pawn and take advantage of this diagonal, but the problem is he can move his queen away with check. He has queen e3 any time, and I haven't done anything about that threat, and I haven't done anything about this dangerous bishop here. So right now he can win immediately with queen e3 check, but he's still winning the way he plays it. F takes, I take back, and now he plays queen e3 check. And this invasion is just really strong. I go here with my king running away, and he comes in with g4. Even better is to bring the other rook in, rook b to e8. Just grab this pawn, and he's basically playing with all of his pieces, except for the knight. The knight is the only piece that's out of play. But well, I have a couple pieces that are a bit offsides, and so overall that's just a winning attack. He plays g4, not the most accurate move, but still keeping a winning edge. All through this he's got a winning edge, but he trades off some of his attacking pieces. This gives me some hope. Oh, cancel that. I took back with the knight. I took back with the knight hitting a queen. This is a really funny sequence here. And he didn't move his queen. He has to move his queen here. He played rook b e8, and I didn't take his queen. So this is just completely inexplicable. I must have been moving way too quick here. But well, I saw the threat to my pawn and I defended it. But you really got to stop and notice things like that. That's inexcusable. Anyway, so now he notices, or maybe just decides to give a check. So he's still winning, in spite of the fact that for a moment there I could have won the game just by taking his queen. And he invades with the queen to h3. And he's got these rooks looking at it. The only thing I'm pinning my hopes on is his knight is still a bit out of play here. And my bishop can get back into the game. I can bring it around this way, perhaps, do some useful things. This square might be a good square to blockade with the bishop. So I have some hopes. I play bishop c1. He goes queen takes g3, grabbing the pawn. I really didn't see a way to defend it. And it's unfortunate to lose that pawn, too, because this bishop f4 idea is no longer in the picture. So we back up. Instead of bishop c1, queen d3 was the move here. So queen d3 is the best defense, holding on to the g-pawn, not giving it up. Okay, so he takes, and then I play my rook to f1, wanting to trade off one of the attacking pieces. He takes. So once again, he's still just completely winning. Chasing my king around and bringing in g3. Yeah, this is still winning. King h3, c4. So c4, he was taking a minute to kind of close up the queen side. Instead, what should he be doing? Somewhere along here, let's back up. He had a much better move at one of these places. Right here. Yeah, instead of playing the pawn move forward, which looks like a natural attacking move, he had the really great move rook to f5, because it's got this terrible threat of rook to h5, checkmate. The queen is guarding all the escape squares, and I can't really stop that. I have to give up the queen for the rook at that point to prevent the mate. So rook a5 would finish the game most convincingly. g3 check, he's still winning. But now after my king goes here, let's see, rook f5 is no longer such a big threat because my king can actually escape. Although, who knows how safe it is there. I was still expecting him to bring his rook in. He goes c4. I get my queen to e4, and well, his advantage has been dropping step by step, and I've been activating my pieces. And then finally, this natural move, knight c7. I mean, he's got two pieces in the attack. He needs to get his third piece involved, so knight c7 seems like the most natural thing to do. Actually gives the advantage away completely. So what he has to play here is some queen move. Even queen f5 check, forcing an exchange and going into an endgame where he's still up the exchange. And he can use his extra material maybe to win one of my pawns. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, he's a pawn up as well as being the exchange up, so should be a winning endgame for him. Okay, so this knight c7 move, though, allows me to get some counterplay. The thing he's not taking into account in this position is his exposed king. So I go queen g4 check. He goes king to the corner. If he goes to f7, yeah, queen d7 check wins the knight. So he goes to the corner. And then I develop my bishop with the threat of bishop to e5, which is actually a mating threat. and he plays queen to g1. I'm threatening mate in 2. He's threatening mate in 1. So you might think that he wins because his mate is first, but my mate comes with check. So bishop e5 check, and he has no defense to the mate in 1 now. He can only interpose his rook, and then I'll take it, and that's mate. So I managed to win this game. And actually, let's see, prior to the game, my rating was 1470, and afterwards it went up to 1484, which is the highest it's been since I've been making these videos. I was up to 1500 briefly. I was a little over 1500 for a brief period, but that was before I started making these videos. So I don't think I've ever had a higher rating on any of these videos. So a new peak for me. And you can also see that it takes an awful lot of luck for me to ever get that high. I think if my players are playing with a normal level of skill for their rating, I wouldn't be scoring that well. So anyway, but I won't look down my nose at a little bit of luck if it comes my way. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.